Hey,
Okay.
everybody. Welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life of Leadership. I'm your series host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted my network, my colleagues, my friends. So these are great leads that I'll be interviewing on those books. And the way that I've broken it down is three categories of books. The first one, where my guest is schooling me on a book that I've never read. The second one is a book that we've both read, whether specifically for the episode or we've read it in a previous life. And then the third one is a book that they've published, whether they are the writer or the publisher. So I've had both on here. In this particular episode, we're going to be talking about a book that I haven't read, but I've heard a lot about. But first, let me get to my guest. For this episode, my guest will be Kisha Zullo. Kisha is a multi passionate entrepreneur. She uses her 25 plus years of experience as an event professional to connect female leaders who are also entrepreneurs to the people and resources that they need to succeed through her annual Women in Business Summit. She's the go to event planner for busy executives who hire her event planning company, Events of Joy, to assist with the planning and execution of their signature live and virtual events. She's a coach and cheerleader to an all star team of women as a Mary Kay independent beauty consultant. And her favorite quote is, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together," which is an African proverb. So, Keisha, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh my goodness, John. Thank you so much for having me. I've been listening to some of your previous guests, and this is such a great conversation. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to sharing one of my favorite books with you.
I Yeah, listen, I what keeps me going through this, that initial confidence to start something like
Yeah.
this is obviously my passion of books, leadership, development, community. But anytime I get, those little notes that you've sent me on the episodes that you've heard, anytime I get those notes, it just makes my day. So I completely appreciate that.
No, I think it's important, especially if you're someone who's starting something new. You want to hear from people that you're doing a great job. I'm sure you're like me, self-motivated, so you're going to do it regardless, but it's always nice to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
people to say, bravo. So,
Yeah, people have always said, like, "What keeps me motivated for this?" I'm like, "Listen, even if just one person listened,
right.
I'm pumped about doing this and meeting people and having these discussions, so I would keep doing it anyway. The fact that there are those people out there like yourselves that have appreciated it, it's an absolute honor that you would take, the time to listen to it, and it's such a bonus, and I appreciate that.
No, my
But
pleasure.
now diving into who you are before we
Yeah.
get to the book, why don't you tell me a little bit about, I gave a very brief breakdown in your bio, and I try to keep it brief just so we can dive into the meat of it as we go. Why
Mm-hmm.
don't you tell me a little bit about the various work that you're doing now? Give us a sense of who you are now, what the work is that you're carrying out for the community.
Well, that's a big question because when I first started off as an entrepreneur, I was accidental entrepreneur. I thought I'd work for someone for the rest of my life. I didn't know that I would, you know, start this. And I remember the day I decided that I want to be an entrepreneur. It was in DC. I was in the office working for a huge hospitality company. So my background is in hospitality and my MBA there and events focused specifically. And I've done obviously sales work as well. So this property was just churning out big events every year in Washington, DC. And I remember this woman walking in, she was casually dressed. And I was like, what is her job? Because I know I'm working with the client and what we're doing, the catering, the audiovisual, all the things that come with that side of planning an event. But I wanted to know what she was doing. She got to spend more time with the client and she was part of their marketing and decor and everything else. So that was like the initial bug of, I want to do what she's doing. And so that was significant. And then when I moved back to Western Mass area, I remember thinking the feeling wouldn't leave. And that's the thing that I think I'm just so grateful for, that feeling of I could start something, didn't leave because I didn't have a roadmap for it.
Mhm.
And I remember, just going for it and coming up with the name, getting your EIN number, just the excitement of building a business. And then it was to name the business. And I couldn't, I wanted to have my mom's name attached to it. And so it was actually my sister who named the company Events of Joy. And it
So
just it
cool.
just completely fits. I had the colors, I wanted it to be yellow and all of the things, and then my sister just like sealed it for me. So Events of Joy has been around for 17 years. And the significance of WIB Summit and how it ties to that was I remember having a conversation. So I self-funded my business. So for all you entrepreneurs who self-funded, woo woo,
Yeah, yeah,
because that's you're putting your money where your mouth is, right? And
absolutely.
so that was the first time that it was at work, and I was having a conversation with a coworker, and I found out that he made significantly more than I did for a similar job. And I thought, well, how could that be possible? And so then I started digging into um, what that would mean for women. Like, what does it mean for to be a woman in the workforce, work life balance, the pay gap? I never paid attention to that, John. I mean, I just, in my 20s, I was working 70, 80, 90 hours a week. And here, then back then in my 30s, I was thinking, then I started to ask questions. When, if I, retrospect, I wish I would have started to ask this question for my first job, because that really sets the pace for your pay scale. That first yes to a pay lays the foundation for the next job and all of the things. So in any case, the significance of starting Events of Joy then was the Women in Business Summit and wanting to be of service to people who were planning events and finding my way. And the difference now is that my mission really ties into everything that I do, and it's to help women succeed personally and professionally, and making those connections for them. So WIB Summit exists because I want to see entrepreneurs thrive, and I want to see women thrive through the challenges that we have. And if I can be a part of that, that's awesome. And for the busy executives that I mentioned in my bio that I work with, it's about relieving the work that they don't want to do, because I'm passionate. I can eat, sleep, drink events all day long. I love those details, but not everybody does.
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
so then you can go out and you can, as an executive, make the money that you need to for your organization. And then I am the person who's interfacing with the vendors and, the property, and looking at timeline, looking at the big picture, and brainstorming ideas for your event to be successful. So
So
yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's everything. That's a lot, but that's everything.
No, 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 I think it's great. And was the WIB, was that Women in Business Summit, was that
Yeah.
was that your first event? Was that your first launching,
Yeah.
event, or were you doing other work and then maybe a few months later, a little down the road, that came up
Yeah.
to
So
mind, or how did that work?
no, so I did a lot. I was telling someone this. I think it was I was a speaker, guest speaker on some other, and this question was asked. I did a lot of pro bono work when I started,
Mhm.
and underpriced myself. I just, and I'm telling people this who may think I'm going to start a business. Don't underprice it, because again, it's like, is someone really going to pay me to do what I love? And I had the security of a full-time job. So it wasn't like, I needed to, that was the money to sustain everything. Now it's a whole different story. I'm full-time entrepreneur. When I make money, I eat. Like that's,
Yeah.
I write my paychecks. So that is the big difference, because I really wanted the experience, and I wanted to build my confidence to see if someone would. So I started off, my first large event was a 500-person Indian wedding, and I got paid in Cirque du Soleil tickets. But come on, it was amazing. It was 3 days, and I did everything, and I didn't sleep. And, I remember meeting with this amazing designer who built the mandap, which is, the ceremonial. Are you familiar? Okay.
I
So
I've been to Indian weddings, I'm like, "Wait, we're gonna be here for how many hours?"
the food, oh
And
my God.
it was in a hall somewhere, and they had, like, it was almost like rafters all around the I'm sorry, what is it called, Keisha?
The
Where they actually,
mandap.
yeah, and it was like
Yeah,
stadium seating,
yeah,
and we're
yeah, yeah.
walking in and out and eating, and everybody's coming and going, and then the music
Mhm.
at the reception, forget it, was, like, phenomenal.
Yeah, so the mandap is this beautiful thing that, the bride and groom gets married under.
Yes.
So it's like a huppah, for Jewish weddings.
Yes.
So back then I was doing weddings, I was taking everything. Now I primarily work with nonprofits and corporate clients who wanna plan their events, but I wanted the experience, and I wanted to build my portfolio.
Of
My
course.
first hired gig was actually from my brother-in-law. He was part of an organization, and again, he was like, "I'm not." He was president of the organization, and he's like, "I am not planning anything." And my sister-in-law just started her business, and I had to do the interview. It wasn't like I was a shoe-in, but I expressed to my family, this is what I'm looking for. And so they were my scouts for me. And just like your friends are your scouts for you, if your friends tell you I'm looking for this, my family is incredible. They they just very amazing. They support me through everything. And so it's really appropriate that my first paycheck was written as a result of my brother-in-law saying, why don't you apply for this opportunity? And then from there, it just grew. And I remember one of my clients, because I had charged her so little, the next time when I charged what I was worth, and I think I would, not to give it away, but it was probably 3 or 4 times or maybe 5 times more. She's like, it's about time. She didn't even flinch,
Yeah. No, I think
you
thank you
know?
for calling that out. Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that to people that are just getting started, not to
Yeah.
underprice yourself, because I think we're all at that point where we want to volunteer, because
Oh,
if you're doing what you love to do and you can afford to volunteer, or maybe not so much afford, but just barely afford to volunteer or pro bono your services. I mean, that's kinda how you know you're in the right field, when you can do it pro bono. I mean, especially an Indian wedding like that, like an event
mm,
that goes that long. It just shows, I think, that you're in the right field, because you're just driven by that energy just to
yeah.
execute. It's not just obviously paycheck is important, the
Yeah.
compensation is important, the contract's important, but for you to be that driven to prove yourself in the beginning,
Hmm.
it just shows so much. It shows so much of how much you wanna pour into whatever it is that field is, whatever your skill is.
It's like you said, if nobody was watching the book leads, you'd be fine.
Yeah,
I feel like I heard someone say, "It's not original to me. Chase your passion, not a paycheck, and the money will absolutely come." And it's true. Opportunities have come because I've shown up. I've gone above and beyond for my clients because I want to see them succeed, and I want to do my best work. And so because of that, then my clients refer me or they come back. And I understand when budgets change because that happened too. Clients that I've worked with for years, they couldn't. I, and we haven't even scratched the surface of the 19, the
yeah,
C19. But
yeah.
it's no matter what, just show up and do your best work. That's it.
So, Keisha, what is it from your past that you think, I don't know what your path looked like, if it was as haphazard as mine or it was planned, but what was it from your past, whether it was education, family, upbringing, that looking back, you're like, okay, it makes sense that I ended up in this event
Yeah,
planning, creating. I love that event planning field, just because you get to create and design people's experiences. What do you
yes.
think from your past, no matter what it may be, kind of was like that first inkling or hint that that was the path you were going to take, or where you were going to end up? You didn't have a path, but it makes sense. You look back and say, okay, that does make sense, that this is what I'm doing now.
So you're can't believe I'm telling you this, John, and everyone else that's watching. But I remember, so I grew up in Jamaica, right? And I remember watching television shows. I'm gonna date myself, but it's quite fun. I'm lucky to be this age. And I'm watching Dallas and those shows with the women with the shoulder pads and like from the 80s and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so I was watching that, and I thought, and I saw a woman with a briefcase. I was like, oh, I want to be a businesswoman. I had no idea what that meant. Like, I just saw the briefcase and the big shoulder pads and the suits, and I was like, yeah, that's for me. And even in undergrad, I had no idea. I knew I wanted a business degree, and that was it. But along the way, I was, involved in so many different activities. I was planning things all the time. I planned things for my family. My sisters and I, we used to plan, shows for the adults and stuff. We'd like host plays and with programs and everything, and have curtains and like the whole
A
bit.
subtle hint of things to come.
No kidding. Like, and so when I ended up at grad school, and I remember I was in Dr. Mannheim's class, and she was talking about events. I'm like, oh my gosh, the MTV Music Awards is an event. The Academy Awards that's an event. Marathons, festivals, they're all events. And so that was it. And it was what led me to grad school for it. It was my mom actually. She woke me up. So I just finished undergrad and I thought, okay, I'm gonna take a breather. But I have a Jamaican mother. There's no such thing as
Yeah, yeah.
there's no such things as rest on your laurels or take a summer off.
Mm.
So she came in. I remember it was like probably 6 o'clock in the morning with the newspaper in New Haven Register, and she was like, "This job, this is for you. Go apply." And I listened. I went and I got the job on the spot. And it was at a boutique hotel in New Haven. And my boss was terrific. Shout out to Rick Dean. And he said, I'm going on vacation in 2 weeks. You're in charge. Just don't burn down anything. Because it was him and me and the setup staff.
Yeah.
And I did, oh, I made some mistakes, but he gave me the space to make the mistakes. And that was it. That's all I needed. I knew I didn't want to work in a restaurant because I was a terrible waitress. I was great at greeting people, but I can't do this. The carry on tray, and I had a customer bark at me for a pork chop. I'm like, really? It's food. What are you? So
Yeah, I don't have the temperament for that. I never did that work. I'm not good with authority and,
yeah.
yeah, no. Wait, so
And God
Keisha.
bless everybody who does that because we
Oh,
need you. We definitely need
absolutely,
you.
absolutely, and I think
Yeah,
it's if you did have that job, it's one of the best jobs that you could have for later in life just because of the
yeah,
customer service, the multitasking, the chaos. Yeah, a complete respect to anybody who's been able to do that job. So, Keisha, how
yeah.
old were you when you came to the States from Jamaica?
I was 12.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
how old were you when you were doing, like, the whole kind of, programs for the family and setting little events up for your
Oh, we
family?
were kids. We were like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah, it just shows like that, just that
Yeah,
little
just
that little feeling, that sensation for it.
yeah, and and I'm the eldest, so I was always my sisters will tell you, a little bossy when it comes to them. So, I would be the organizer, but I didn't know what it was called. And even in grad school, although I was excited by it, I still didn't know. It wasn't until I got to Washington D.C. and worked for a major hospitality company, and we just worked. We worked. We were an ex. That was my favorite one of my favorite teams to be a part of because we had an incredible boss who was tough but fair, and she just inspired us. And I still want to be like her because she, like I said, tough but fair, and we enjoyed working with her. We enjoyed working for her, and when she would go to bat for us. And I saw so many different events, and I followed her to another property. Then I got the chance to work with foreign dignitaries, and just everything that you can imagine came across my desk, and I was excited for it. So when I moved back to Connecticut, I was like, okay, events. And it's been that way ever since.
So, from your mom bringing in that
Yeah.
newspaper clipping shows
Yeah.
how old I am. That's how I got, most of my jobs.
Yeah.
Um, so from there, you went to that hotel. Did
Mhm.
you go to DC after that, the hotel in, New Haven, or were there a couple other steps that you
No,
took?
it was New Haven, Rhode Island, DC, and then now Western Mass, just to give you the geography.
Okay.
Um, yeah, mm,
And it was
in
just
Connecticut
moves for,
especially.
like, great jobs?
Initially, yes. How I landed in Western Mass was because of my late husband, and so he and I actually met him at my very first job out of college.
Oh, wow.
That first job at the boutique hotel, that's where I met him. And
Wow.
funny story about that. So we were friends for a very long time, 10 years. And eventually when we did get together, he would say, "Oh my gosh, you're so dense. Like, how did you not know I liked you?" And I'm like, because I I wish I had a flag. I need a flag
Yeah, yeah,
and a sign that says, Keisha, I like you
yeah,
for me to know.
yeah,
So, we had lots of laugh about that, but he was just a really um amazing person. And
yeah.
he's the reason why I ended up back in this area.
That's amazing. Because I
Yeah.
mean, look where you are now. I mean, just
Yeah.
the it's like, yeah, every early spring, I look forward to, like, your promotions of of the Women in Business Summit just
Yes.
because, the speakers that you bring, just the number of speakers that you bring, the numbers of our mutual contacts that, are getting tables, are going there, are singing the praises of the event. So I mean, I think it's just one of those it stands out as one of like the main events in the area that I just know is going to be clutch every year. It's just going
Thank
to
you
bring
so
bring
much.
exactly what people need, especially the themes that you pick.
Thank
Um,
you.
what would have been did you always have a theme each one, or was it relatively
Um,
recently where you kind of right? I've noticed like the last couple
yeah,
years you've kind of
I
had
think
like
yeah, I think the theme started. I'm not sure when I have to look back because I know the first year, the first couple years, I don't think we had a theme. It's 17 years, so I have to think about that,
congratulations. That's
and I
amazing.
should look back and have somebody just catalog the history of it. And I don't know if we had a theme initially when we started. I A couple of significant steps that I still carry on today that I really I'm proud of is that we always have attachments to a nonprofit to support. That was important to us that we had an element of giving back to our community. So for a number of years, Just for Success, I think for 5 or 6 or 7 years of the conference, Just for Success was the beneficiary, and we had women come and bring their gently used or new suits and donate it back to Just for Success. That was significant. And then the other thing, the theme was women in, because the name started off really long, John. It was Women in Business, Passing the Baton, Today, Tomorrow, and Beyond Summit.
I'm trying to think of what that acronym even is.
It's not, and everybody was like, "This is a mouthful. Can we shorten it?" I was like, "Okay, fine, WIB Summit," because I wanted the symbolism of passing on your knowledge, of sharing, and so
Yeah.
we try to keep that spirit going of obviously sharing knowledge. So thank you so much for your compliments about the event. I'm really proud of it, and
You're gonna see when I share on LinkedIn, I'm gonna share your promotions. I'm just gonna say pass the baton.
pass the
And
baton.
and
Yes,
but yeah, I get what you mean. You don't want it to be just a women in business like a snapshot of this year. You want it to
yes.
be, paying it forward, moving it forward.
Always,
Yeah.
always, because that's how we grow. Someone passed on to me and I passed on. And it's not, you know, it's just how we grow. And that's why I love that quote. If you want to go far, you got to go together. If you
So
want to go fast, go solo.
it
Sure,
sounds
you'll
like
get there
those
fast.
bosses that you had kind of demonstrated what that proverb shares, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I can never underestimate or take power away from when somebody says that this person was a great boss. Like you could
Mhm.
see it. Like when you said the person in New Haven was a great boss, the person in
Christine,
DC was a great boss.
Andrea Nacy.
It's just like it just makes you stand to attention when there's a boss that just trusts somebody.
Oh,
And you even said the one in DC, I forgot the name. Sorry,
no, it's all
worst
right.
person ever with
Andrea
name.
Nacy.
Andrea was tough but fair and went to
Yes.
bat for you. It's like those are the 3 things you need. Somebody that's gonna be tough about the standard of the work,
Yeah.
somebody that's gonna be fair though, that they understand that it takes a while to get to that level of quality, and then somebody that's gonna go to bat for you. So you don't think that the being tough is just for them to have fun. They're showing you, "Here's the
Oh,
standard, but
yeah.
I will go to bat for you."
Absolutely. I remember when we were because we had some significant things happen in DC that affected our revenue. So DC Sniper was one, of course, 9/11,
Ooh.
and um we were facing company-wide layoffs. It was crazy. And so she wanted to keep us all there. So she came to us and she told us, this is a situation. We're trying to avoid layoffs. It may be possible, but what do you guys think of doing these different things so that we all can stay employed through this process? And we all were like, yes, we want to keep our jobs and we want to remain on this team. And even when the team scattered and everybody, because they were promoted or they saw other opportunities, we still, I will never forget the lessons of watching her work because um, it wasn't because I saw the opposite, you know. I saw what it's like to have a boss who played favorites. I saw what it was like to have a boss who was micromanaging you and, you know, putting you down in front of your coworkers are putting other people down in front of you, and it's embarrassing, and you're like, oh my goodness. And so, it's important, especially in this type of environment that we're in, or people change jobs just like that. There's some company who still have incredible longevity. Like when so I'm a beauty consultant with Mary Kay, and when I'm amazed when we go to our large conference in Dallas, how many people have worked for that company 30, 40 years. It's been around almost 60, and there are people who've been there for 40 years. That's not the norm anymore. And
Yeah.
I know that it's not just tied to I don't want to move my cheese.
Oh yeah, well, I forgot. We gotta go ahead. Go ahead.
It's not tied to not wanting to change. It's tied to the environment is right. I can grow here. I love, being here. And I felt that under those leadership. And the thing about my first job, he was game for me to leave. He wrote me in a recommendation. He talked to the general manager in Rhode Island and said, you have to hire her. She needs a job at another property that was completely unrelated to, wasn't like it was a sister property. He wrote my recommendation letter. I mean, these are things that I didn't ask him to do. He said, here's where I think you should work. Here's who you should interview with. I've already given you recommendations. So I went to grad school with a job in
Yeah.
hand. Um,
Yeah, I think those bosses
you
when they're
know,
like,
but
"Listen,
like,
listen, here's a job that you should apply for. Here's a
yeah,
job you should apply for." And you're young, so you're like, "Do you not like me?
right,
Am I doing something wrong?"
right.
And,
No,
and they kept talking. They're like, "Listen, I want you to move on and I want you to pay
yes,
attention, or did you see this thing that we got about this job that's and it's just amazing because most people are like, "Okay, if I have a good worker, I wanna, like, keep them. I wanna keep them here."
right,
But those bosses, those managers, supervisors that are so selfless that they understand that we all need to grow and they
right,
support you and they give you the resources and the reference letters and the job
right.
postings. It's just it's a incredible and just that you said you can appreciate one because you've seen what the opposite is.
Yes.
I think bosses like that just need to be, like, celebrated, as much as possible.
I agree. I agree. And clients like that too, because I've had clients where I'm like, oh my gosh, I love working with you because they trust my work. And I have to earn it. Let's just keep,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
they trust that I'm doing the job that I said I could do, and they work with me in a collaborative type of way. Those are my favorite. They're just, it's you can feel
We
it. Everybody's in the room getting creative, and if there's no bad idea. It's just like, okay, let's think about it in a different way. Oh my gosh. And that's why I love WIB Summit, because I have an advisory board. We don't all agree. It was very important to me, even from the beginning. I knew I didn't know everything. So I surrounded myself with women who were great in finance and marketing, and they came on board. And some of my dear friends, who I met through just inviting them to WIB Summit, that 17 years later, were friends because of that initial meeting, and because I trust their opinion. They're not just going to tell me to make me feel good.
and I know some of them because you've posted pictures of when you guys have or when you ladies have a board meeting, and I know some of them, and
Yes,
they're just absolute they just grind to it, they hustle, they just
yes,
it's something amazing in my network is just the women are on fire. They're
yeah.
always up to something. They're always delivering. I'm not saying that the guys aren't,
Oh
but
yeah, the guys are in there too. We need you
the
guys.
guys are absolutely, absolutely. But there's just something about my network where it's just like the women are just they're just so I don't know. They're just getting it done. I mean, all of you are just it's
Absolutely.
amazing. I love watching it. Um, and it's inspiring. Even um, inspiring me as a man just to kind of the community, the
Yeah.
camaraderie, the support, the
Mhm.
sharing, everything, all of it. It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I just remember I told you one of my favorite episodes was when you had that gentleman, Darren. Is this the
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So when you guys had that conversation, and I was sitting at my desk going, yes, 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 we need more of that. We need more of that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important for the guys to be like us a little bit sometimes. And And we,
Yeah, I don't know what it is about who I'm following or friends with. Again, not to take anything away from the guys, but it's just it's incredible to see. I mean, I think this community in Connecticut and Mass is just it's on fire. It's on fire. I love it.
yeah.
But you mentioned Move Your Cheese before,
Yes.
Keisha. So why don't we jump into the book? And
Got it right here.
now here's a book that I know is like important. It's seminal. It's one of those that's always mentioned, and I forget. I don't think I've ever read the book.
Oh, it's such an easy read.
So what yeah, okay, so Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah, by Spencer Johnson, Dr.
Spencer
Spencer
John Dr.
Johnson.
Spencer Johnson. So how did you come across the book? What made you pick it up?
So I've had this for a very long. I've had this since my DC days, and I wish there was a date in here because it's hold it back here. It's signed. It says Keisha and Joy fondly Pam. Who's Pam? I have no idea. No idea.
But it's made out it is made out to you?
It's made out to me. And I know I got this in when I worked in DC from it's either a client or somebody I came
Oh, okay.
across my
Yeah,
this book is old. Like my
I've done
personal book.
that. I've gifted books, so yeah, it could be.
Yeah. But in any case, Pam, thank you so much. Because rereading it now versus when I was in my 20s, it's a completely different experience. And the story, if I can summarize it, because there's so much. I mean, I went back through and dog eared it because I was like, oh, that's right.
But
It's
I mean, just to
about,
go back to what you said,
yeah,
it is amazing when you can read something in your 20s.
yes,
Because there was a book that I read that I had for an episode here, and I think I read it way back when it first came out, like the mid 2000s, and then the person I was interviewing was going through it with me. I'm like, "Oh my god, I need to go back and read that book." And I went
yeah,
back and I was highlighting and starring, but thinking about it now, it's a completely
yeah,
different story than what I read. Back then, it was probably like, I was new an employee. I'm like, "Okay, I gotta make a difference," or whatever it was, right? I think it was
yeah.
the power of engagement, I think is what the book was.
Okay.
Now it's just completely different. Now I go back and you just take lessons away so completely different than you did in your first read.
Yes, I loved it reading it through it again. And I'm not like, my late husband he could fly through books in 600 pages and be done in no time. Me, I'm a little bit slower. So I love audiobooks. So I'm grateful for audiobooks. I don't get through as many books as I want to. I remember when I picked up Outliers, I think that was a book recommendation from my husband too, by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't,
Yes?
and trying to think of another one that Quincy Jones, his autobiography was incredible.
Oh, I
But
can
Who
imagine.
Moved My Cheese? So it's about, do you want me to summarize it?
Yeah, sure, sure. Whatever you however you wanna break it down is
Uh, it's about the little people. It's a story of they're in this maze, little people, hem and haw, and two mice, Sniff and Scurry. And so they're in this maze and they're in the part of the maze with tons of cheese. And so everybody's having a great time. They are eating their cheese and there's plenty to go around. Sniff and Scurry, the mice, they have their sneakers around their necks because every day they would go out into the maze and they would search for new cheese and they'd come back. Hem and haw, the little people with the bigger brains, because they're like, what are those two mice doing running off into the maze? They didn't pay them any mind. They kept eating the cheese. Sniff and Scurry noticed that the cheese supply was dwindling. So before long, there was no cheese. But Sniff and Scurry had been going out in the maze every day. Hem and Haw hung up their sneakers. They made a home around the cheese. They built stores. They had everything set up around this supply of cheese because it was so abundant. Cheese was done. Hem and Haw sitting there wondering who moved my cheese. And so the story goes on about Sniff and Scurry being in the maze, running down this dark path, not finding cheese, and then just quickly running to the other one. And then they tried to tell Hem and Haw, the little people, come with us, come back out into the maze, let's go find new cheese. And Hem and Haw sat for a while wondering, excuse me, I gotta mute you for a second.
no worries.
I don't think it worked. You heard me cough.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's life. It's life.
So they went out into the maze and wanted Hem and Haw to go in there, and Hem and Haw decided they're going to stay in their section of the maze and wonder who moved their cheese. And so that went on for a little bit, and finally they're now starving, and Haw said to Hem, maybe we should go out into the maze. And Hem was like, no, I'm furious. Whoever moved my cheese needs to put it back. So I'll fast forward to the end where Ha decides that he's going to go out, or she's going to go out into the maze, put the sneakers on, to go out. And it was scary because it's dark. They're starting over. Ha doesn't remember if he knows how to go after new cheese. It's been so long. He set up shop around the old cheese. He found a supply that was tasting different than the cheese that he had before. So he wasn't sure, but he was out. And so when he found this supply of cheese, he ran back to Hem and said, hey, I found new cheese. You want to come out? And Hem was still just in his feelings, but he decides to press on and leave him where he is. And so the book is really about fear and life and circumstances that move you to move or stay stagnant. And eventually, at the end of the book, Ha has gone down many hallways, many changes, found a little bit of cheese here and there. Then he got to Station N, and Station N had just the most incredible abundance, even more than the first station, Station C, of cheese. There was all different types of cheeses and everything else. And guess who was sitting there in Station N with all the new cheese? Our little friends Sniff and Scurry. And they saw Ha and they were like, hey, what up? You made it.
What took you so long?
What took you so long? Nice
Yeah.
to see you. And instead of, this time throwing his sneakers away, or, putting them away, Ha kept his sneakers laced around his neck, ready to go with the understanding that this is incredible. I'll set up shop for now in Station N, where all this incredible cheese is even more than Station C, but I'm ready for the change. And so that was like the lessons of the book. And at the end, if you don't mind me sharing it.
Absolutely.
So along the way, throughout the maze, Paul was writing all of the lessons that he would learn with each change and each thing that he made. So the handwriting on the wall, here are some of the things. Change happens, they keep moving the cheese. Anticipate change, get ready for the cheese to move. Monitor change, smell the cheese often so you know when it's getting old. Adapt to the change quickly. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you'll enjoy new cheese. Change, move with the cheese, enjoy change, savor the adventure, enjoy the taste of new cheese, and be ready to change quickly and enjoy it again and again. They keep moving the cheese. So for me, it's just when I read this, I thought it's great to have the lesson, but also important to have the implementations of the lesson. And that's a thing that I love too, that Hall was realizing that fear was holding him back, and all he needed to do was step out and keep moving. And then it wasn't about the cheese anymore. It was the excitement that he found in himself for moving, for getting out of his own way. And then the friendship with him, he hoped that eventually he would come out of the station, because at the end of the book, you have hints that maybe Hem was moving out of Station C because he's still starving back there. And along the way, Hall was leaving breadcrumbs so that when Hem wanted to move, or when he decided to move, he would know the path to take. So I just
Yeah.
love all these little gems in this small book that apply so much to our life, between friendships and deciding to move and change that happens because I've been through so many significant changes, and I've seen where at times I was him, and at times I was Haw, and at times I was Sniff and Scurry. So, I think it's incredible. And there are more things here that I've highlighted, and that, so I really hope that your listeners, watchers, pick up and go through Who Moves My Cheese, because I think it's significant.
Yeah, I think again, I had a general idea of what the book was, but I mean
Mhm.
that you broke it down perfectly where there are those parties that are like, okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then these parties that are like, no, I'm comfortable here. And then there's a party within that second party that's like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to go out and check out what's going on. Uh, but I think it's, and as an entrepreneur, I think even before an entrepreneur, even before
Mhm.
taking on a business, everything in life, it's like a lesson that we need to learn is, we need to step out of our comfort zone. And it's been written about, it's been talked about ad nauseum, right?
Right.
It's such a cliche, step out of your comfort zone. Because I always say, listen, these pieces of advice are cliche. Whoever gives you that advice, make sure they have a story with it. So they're not just
Yeah.
saying step outside your comfort zone. It's like, thank you. I've
Yeah.
heard that 30 times, 40 times, 50 times a year. Can you give me a story? Can you give me an example? Because I would love for younger people to hear that mindset of experimentation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they feel they have to have everything locked up. And
Yeah.
this reminds me of kind of the book Mindset, where it's like the fixed mindset of this is what we have versus okay, that's not all we have. We can go look for more. We can create more. We can explore.
Mhm.
If we go down one pathway and it doesn't work, we learn from it. We learn what's
Right.
there, what isn't, and we keep going.
I think it's hard to give yourself, I had to learn to give myself some grace to understand that I don't have to get it right.
Yeah.
I was follow the rules type of person. And for me, it's expanding your comfort zone. If that makes it more palatable for you to think about, think of it as expanding your comfort zone, that you're keeping the good parts, but you're also adding other amazing parts. If I didn't start WIB Summit, do you know the amount of people I would not have met? Incredible people who have stretched my thinking, circumstances that my faith has been stretched by it. I just, to believe as we, because we even to the last 2 weeks, I'm like, are people going to show up? 17 years later, I still are they going to come? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I built this beautiful thing. Will they come see it? And so you have to stretch yourself and expand your comfort zone because you're going to miss some incredible people, experiences, and then seeing a side of yourself that you can be proud of and trusting, knowing that you can trust your gut. So,
So when you launched the Women in Business Summit, who
mm,
was it you had with you? I mean, you've mentioned your board. I'm
yeah.
assuming most of those people they came out along the way. But when you took that leap to start something, or even your business, who
Mhm.
was it you leaned on? Because as much as I say I want to step out
Yeah.
of my comfort zone, it always does help when you have somebody. Like I say, find your tribe. But find your tribe
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
mean yes people. It doesn't
No.
mean yes people because that's dangerous. When I say find your tribe, I mean find somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can
Mhm.
brainstorm, that you can get feedback from, that can motivate you. Because for me, support is different from motivation. For
Mhm.
for me, support is I'll catch you or I'll celebrate you, but
Right.
motivation is really that fire to move forward. So you don't have to name names, but who did you have as that kind of collective of people, or maybe it was one person that was like, pushing you along.
Mhm.
So, maybe you were hem and haw and they were
Sniff and scurry.
sniff and scurry. That were kind of in your ear, like go this way, go this way, go this way.
So, my family, to start with John, like I have an incredible mother who's single parent, immigrant to this country, worked her tail off to send her girls through college, all the bits, right? And so my work ethic is watching her not give up. Um, and so just watching her and my family, were so supportive. They buy their tickets to WIB Summit. It's like I always want to say, give it away, give the store away. That's why I have people say, okay, you need the money though, Kisha, to work. So let's be clear. And, so they would buy their tickets and all the things. And then I looked out to women who I admire, just women who are already doing their thing, who I see as resilient, as professional. And then I reached out to them and said, I don't know, I'm doing this event. Would you want to join me? And so there are, I think, 10 of them the first year we started WIB Summit, and since then it's gone between 5 and 3. I keep the advisory board small, and they're invited to be on the board for a time. Our good friend Marianne Cruz was part of WIB Summit Advisory Board for 10 years. She was the longest running. And then, when she said, I think it's time, I'm like, I know I'm gonna miss you, but I get it.
Yeah.
So I just look for people who are loyal, that I can trust, who will have the best interest of WIB Summit in mind, because experience has taught me to be able to discern you cannot be in it for yourself. You have to be able to look at what I'm trying to do for the women who are coming to WIB Summit. I want them to leave better than when they walk through the doors of the space that we're in. I want them to have tools that the next day, or they can go. I want them to feel good about themselves and the decisions they're making about their lives, because we meet women in a season of their life sometimes and they're not sure which way to go. Or we'll have women who are looking to retirement and they think, well, what's next for me? And we want to inspire them that there is a next and it's exciting and you should go for it. Or I have this business idea, but I'm not sure. How do I even get started? So,
So do you
to
see a
answer
really
your
great
question,
do you see a really great broad spectrum of attendees at the summit
yeah.
itself?
So we have primarily we focus on leadership development, money management, entrepreneurship, and personal development. What I have decided in the last few years is I'm going to drill down on the female entrepreneur. So someone who is working either part-time in their business or full-time in their business. I feel like I need to bring those resources forward. We still will have the motivation piece, and you can come for the inspiring stories, but I really want to, and I think this year more than years past, we have things that speak directly to the female entrepreneurs, and it's only going to be drilled down later on. I started thinking about and planning what we're going to do for 2023. And I'm excited by it and who I want to have to come and speak. And, because I see that entrepreneurship is a way that you can change your economic circumstances quickly. You can move your income quickly,
Yeah,
faster than you can,
the
and
9 to 5.
than a 9 to 5. I could never, and you can change. You can be creative. You can use your passion, and having a passion in something that you're great at doesn't mean that you're a great business person. And
Mm,
so, can we bridge the gap between especially if you're creative? How do I manage my business effectively while working at something that I love to do? And that's something I'm still learning through. So we're gonna grow together, which is awesome.
Keisha, how many days is this year's event?
One.
Is
Shouldn't
it
it
one?
be a weekend, right, John?
Yeah.
It should
Well
be like
well, I think when am I mistaken, or I'm thinking like, maybe when I first heard about it a couple years ago, was it 2 days, or am I thinking
No, we started off as a breakfast actually, and then now
okay,
we're a full day conference. But we do have a speaker reception for the speakers that happens the night before,
okay.
just so they can get to know each other, because on the day of we're all over the place. And um, but no, the event for the public is 1 day conference, and there's some ideas that I have, as I really want this to be a global event. My vision is that we're in multiple countries and cities, and and I got to get moving on that vision, because I can't be like him. I got to be like sniff and scurry.
Yeah, yeah. Get out and test things.
Yeah, because that's my own comfort zone. I know Connecticut. I know everything's in its place, but I feel like, especially when we went virtual for a couple of years because of pandemic, I feel like because we brought in so many international speakers, wouldn't it be cool to be able to have a network that extends outside of Connecticut? Because maybe Connecticut is not where you grow. Maybe you grow in a different place.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, what
Try it
is
out and see.
and it's a mixture of speakers and workshops?
Yeah, so we have a general session, and then we have 4 breakout sessions. Yeah, and there are 14 speakers. So you have your pick of leadership development and entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about money, because that's a big thing for female entrepreneurs. How do you have the access to capital, and you know, and then the personal development side. And the theme is manifest this year, and I love that, because manifestation to me means doing the work. It doesn't just mean that you believe
Mhm.
and you're going to do all the other things. but you're believing and you're doing the work as well. And you are just, and then when it comes to fruition, you're like, okay, it's what I wanted. It's not a surprise.
Keisha, what kind of work have you done with younger women? Maybe students?
Still, yeah. So I'm trying to think back when we first started WIB Summit, we did have a, because we were figuring out who we would serve. So I know for my mom, we did a scholarship program. We started a scholarship program. We did things with high school students. So, but not anymore. Most of our audience are women who've been in their industry. I would say it starts like 35 and then
Okay.
up.
Okay. No,
Um,
I only say that just because the message of this book that you shared, "Who Moved My
mhm,
Cheese," is just one that I wish I'd heard when I was younger,
me too.
and it's amazing to see it's amazing to hear a book and a message or read a book and a message and then
Mhm,
see it executed, to see it in a group of people that lives it.
mhm.
Um, and I love when students see that, they don't just have to go by curriculum, but there's that mindset, that mentality that they can
Yeah,
go for what they want. It's that they don't have to stick to that script of, okay, it's college, it's this, and then you stay in the 9 to 5 and you move up and, but there's
John,
just
I
so
tell
much.
you, if there was one thing, I agree. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No, no,
but
not at all. Go ahead.
I'm so agreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah. Um, I don't know, because even aside from the business aspect, even
Mhm,
aside from their success
mhm,
aspect,
mhm.
I think it's such a healthy mindset, even for mental health. Do you know what I mean? In some cases of mental health, if you
Yes.
change your circumstances and go beyond your comfort zone, in some, not all, not a doctor, never played one on TV. They wouldn't
Right,
want me to play one on
let's
TV.
make that clear. People are like, "Well, you don't understand." Well,
Yeah,
okay, but
yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, I've just heard of just so many people who didn't change their circumstances, stayed comfortable, and they were being like torn inside
oh man.
because of that. Whether it had to do with their professional life or whether it had to do with their personal life, their mental health. It's just one of those lessons, I think, to go beyond that fear, like what's on the other side of that fear that we don't hear enough. I just wish we heard it more.
Yeah, and one of my favorite people, Nicole Walters, and that's the thing through Web Summit that I also love is that I started to seek out these amazing female entrepreneurs, and she said something, pick your heart. It's gonna be hard either way. I just
Yeah.
choose to do this because I've thought about it. I could go back and work for someone else easily. I have my MBA. I'm pretty,
Hmm.
I know what I can do for a company and all of that. But I want to see what it's like to walk this out. And I hear you on. I wish that I had been introduced to this book, the idea of entrepreneurship from high school. Because what could I have come up with in high school
Yeah, but you know what?
and
I've talked about that
college and
also,
undergrad?
where where I've had people out here and it's like, oh, I wish we had these kind of things, these kind of books,
Yeah,
these kind of messages when we were students. But I mean, look where we are now.
yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
it all happens in a certain timeline. It all happens in a certain way, and at the very least, you're paying it forward through
That's
your
the
message to maybe set somebody up that is younger in the process to keep that mentality. So I think as long as we keep paying it
mhm,
forward, I mean, that's still our legacy. It doesn't have to start with us, when we're right out of high school or college.
good point. Although I really wish I had started. I do wish I'd started
No,
earlier.
yeah, no,
I
I
was
know.
like, but I'm glad I started when I did because I could have. Really thinking back, I could have decided not to. It could have gone so many other ways. I mean, I was laid off, and then my husband was like, "Well, why don't you just do your business? Work your Mary Kay, work your events of joy." And I was like, "It's a good idea. You're a smart man." So, I just feel like,
I knew there was a reason I married you.
yeah, yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
That when I reread this book, I'm like, okay, makes so much more sense. And you're right. I don't think I would have appreciated had I not gone through the experiences that I've gone through.
Yeah,
Because that's what's making me appreciate the book in my 40s now that I couldn't have in my 20s was
exactly.
that reading it, and it applies to me personally and professionally.
So when the lessons of it really sunk in after the
Mm.
fact, after you had already moved into your event planning business, the WIB Summit, is that when it really resonated with you?
No, when
Meaning
you asked me to be on the book leads.
okay, okay. That's when it was like,
When
okay,
you asked me what book, and I thought about it, of all the books, I was like, "Oh, Who Moved My Cheese?"
yeah,
Because I've, of the milestone, unfortunate, of my husband passing, of pandemic, of the first time someone called me the N word, of the biggest, the largest client that I've ever had. Um, all of these little things, um, significant things, and the decisions that I could have made. Pandemic hit my business hard. I mean, it was, I'm a live event planner.
yeah,
How do you move through that if you don't have the mental toughness to be like, it's gonna work itself out. It's gonna be okay. Somebody moved my cheese, fine. Let me go find new bloody cheese. And it might taste even better. And let's have the expectation that's even better. I talk about this with my business bestie, and we're like, man, we're going through some stuff. And we know that what's on the other side of this stuff is even going to be greater than what we've experienced before. That is
yeah,
the expectation.
yeah. I think it's gonna taste sweeter just because
Yeah,
you know what the trough tastes like, and
right.
yeah.
Right, John.
There's just so much, I don't know. Hopefully people take those lessons away from the pandemic to just appreciate,
Mhm.
um, just what they have, even if they're not a business person. Um, yeah, there's a lot of lessons there. There are a lot of silver lines you can't take away from it. We're not quite through
Mhm.
it yet, but there's just huge lessons of just appreciation, gratitude, just all of that comes with, just being thankful for what you have.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of businesses were birthed in the pandemic. A lot of people did significantly well, and some, had significant family changes, and losses, and dealing with everything under the sun. Um, and so you're right. I mean, we're still in, obviously I don't want to pretend like it's not still a thing, but
Yeah.
mm,
So are you gonna even though I typically share this question or ask this question of, the author of a book if I'm covering it in an episode, but
mhm.
do you plan on writing a book at all?
Yes.
Yeah?
Isn't that something? You're the first person to ask. You're the first person to ask me. Actually, not true. Some folks have asked me to be co-authors on books, and I've said no because the timing just wasn't right. But I have this. Where is my dream box? I'm like, where is it? It sits on my desk. And this is my dream box, John. This little box, and it's
Okay.
this idea box. I call it my dream box. And in here is the title and some other things that I hope, God willing, I have the time that I can share with the world. I'm excited about it. It gets me super excited. So then I'll come back on and we can talk about my book. That would be super,
Is it
because
a
this
like,
will be the day that we talked about it, and then I'll come on as an author.
I
How
would love
cool! You
that.
gave me some more enthusiasm to see that dream through, because I've never
If
written a thing in my life. So
if you need enthusiasm, if you need motivation to make something better of yourself, to create something of value, drop me a line,
yeah,
call me, text me because I've realized during the pandemic, just like the narrative in my coaching
yeah,
changed where people, even with me, my mental health, I've mentioned it on here.
yeah.
People lose sight of what they've been about because of whether it's that 9 to 5, because of the business. We couldn't recenter ourselves and we were forced to because of a
Mhm,
pandemic. So anytime I can see, as a coach, I think you've done it yourself too, Keisha, when it comes to coaching someone, supporting somebody, guiding, motivating, and they have that aha moment
mhm.
where they're like, shit, I can do it too,
Yeah,
or wow, no one ever asked me that question, or that's an amazing feeling. That's an
yeah,
amazing feeling,
it
just to
really
see
is.
somebody
It's
realize what they're all
validation.
about. Just to
It's
see what some
validation.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that you have your dream box, and there is something about that accountability of there's the box of
Yeah.
writing it down. Actually, you can think about, oh, I got to write a book, or I want to make a movie, or you have all these ideas floating around in your head. But there's something about writing it down, even on a
Mhm.
postcard, even on a
Yes.
index card, and or however your
Yeah,
process is for your dream
it's
box.
one of these cards, and I keep a
Yeah.
stack, on my desk because they pop in, and I'm like, "Oh, I need to write that down." Not so good about I used to have one, on my nightstand, but I changed it to my desk because and then I pop it in the box. And some ideas I'll go back, I'm like, "That's crap," but I don't wanna
What I mean, at
I
least you
don't
kinda you
wanna
vetted it, you thought about it, it sounded good at that time. Maybe you were
I
drinking
was
some
like,
wine and you're
"What
like,
the
"Wow,
hell
that
was
sounds
I?"
amazing."
Right. I'm like, "Oh, no, we're not doing
Yeah,
that."
this is shit. What is
Right.
this?
I don't wanna do that.
Yeah. No, that's a great
So,
idea. I don't think
yeah.
I've done that. I have, like, a list, like, in my Evernote of stuff that I wanna get to and good things that are going on because it's amazing what gratitude does, even
Mhm. Why
for
did you
what.
decide to be a coach? I'm sorry, I know it's this we're talking about, but
No,
I'm
no, no.
curious, why did you decide to? Like, what was the thing that made you
Uh
say?
I think I was just always a good listener. I'll never admit that I'm good at anything, but in terms of listening and helping people, and I think it stems from maybe your own need, whatever maybe you needed as a kid or in your life. You try to
Mhm,
be that for other people. And I would always see how much more people would say if someone was really listening. I mean, really listening, not having a conversation, repeating facts about what happened in your day, but really hearing who they are, what they need, being curious. So I've always had that curiosity. And then I went for my MBA, or no, I went for an organizational psychology's master
okay.
program. And then it was just like, if you finish that program, a couple extra credits and you get your MBA because a lot of the classes overlap, right? And in one of those classes, I just read this book, The Leadership Challenge, which I highly recommend. And
Mhm,
it just went through what their take is on leadership and all these different ideas and concepts and conversations. And the same way you and I talked about managers and realizing the good ones versus the bad ones, like I always kept mental notes of what is it that stood out of great leaders, great people versus those that aren't. So
mhm.
when I read this book, I'm like, leadership coaching, it's like, holy shit, this is a thing. And
Yeah,
ever since then, it's been amazing, but it all comes down to just helping people realize the tools that they have at their disposal. It's just really asking them questions, and you realize how much it's amazing when people say no one's ever asked me that before. So it just shows me that we just need to have more conversations
yeah.
and learn more about each other. So that just that aha moment and just people realizing what they're worth is just it's just mind blowing that I can do that just by asking questions and having them kind of look at their situation maybe from different points of view.
No, I think that's an incredible skill to have because I know I need it sometimes to be able to pull back and understand because you just get caught up with everything. And like you're saying, being able to listen, not just listen, intently listen, and then turn that listening into these are the tools you have. Like, perfect person for the job. Love it.
So, I mean, that's it. I mean, and it's the same curiosity that started this series. I mean, I get to listen to my colleagues, my network. I always say it's selfish because for me, this is awesome just talking to you guys, all of you, your books that you're sharing. First and foremost, I'm not going to lie, it's about me. I'm curious about what's
Yeah,
going on. And then
yeah,
obviously there's a benefit. I get to share what my network is up to, what they're doing, what they're writing. But it's in the same vein. Like, I just think it's amazing. We see each other on social media, we
yeah.
share what we're up to, but there's just something about having a conversation, hearing the tone in each other's voices and having people kind of listen in just to see what we're all
Hmm.
about. The fact that they're going to learn about you, your background, your ups and downs, and how you just made it happen.
Yeah. Thank you for having this platform for folks because I think it's super important. Because you
Absolutely.
feel, especially if you, I'm a solopreneur. So if you are, and again, that's what's, you said this is selfishly for you. WIB is selfishly for me because I also get to work out things through the summit. And I think about myself and the things that I'm missing. I'm like, well, if I'm missing that, someone else might be missing it too. and how can I be of service? Because I know that that's what I'm here to do, is to be of service to others and to help them realize that they're not alone and to provide them with the tools, because I love the connection that I've seen come as a result of a presenter be at WIB Summit, a sponsor, a attendee, and to hear them tell it back to me about how they made that connection. One of my proudest moments was Prudence Crandall, who's a local, I don't know if you know them, they support women who are survivors of domestic violence. And because of them being one of our charities that we support, they got a huge grant the next year from just someone in the audience who was part of an organization who could give to nonprofits. So our little that we were able to give them turned into a lot because of the personal connection. So those are the things for me that just make my heart sing, that I will do this event, with just give it all that I have and not really care about the money aspect of it. It's important
It's
because we
important.
get
Let's be
to,
honest. It's
yeah, money is
important.
it's a resource, and it will help me to
Absolutely.
plan
Absolutely.
next year and the year after. But really and truly, that's the part that gets me super excited and
Like
makes
there's
me
just
happy.
there's just so much that comes from, telling stories, because my one of my
Yes.
best friends was listening to my last episode and she started crying just because of what my last guest was talking about.
Was that
Um,
Bridget? Dr. Bridget.
yes, it was Dr.
Yeah.
Bridget, the accident she had, how it had left her with challenges, cognitive challenges, or just the way that she writes. And my friend had a brain tumor, kind of along the same boat, and the impact going forward. Um, and yeah, if I hadn't asked Dr. B, a random person at the time, we were connected on LinkedIn, much like you, Keisha. This is the first time we've
I
spoken face to
know.
face.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? We've known each other for but you're
Never met
absolutely
face to
right.
face. This is the first time somebody had mentioned your company, so I looked you up and followed you, and we connected. But much in the same way, I reached out to
Yeah.
Dr. B, I reached out to you, and somebody gets to hear your stories, and it's just a ripple effect
Yeah.
because
She's
I
a
don't.
former WIB Summit speaker, by the way.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me. You ladies are all killing it, all killing it. Like, I
That's
don't know. I
awesome.
don't know. But in any case, yeah, there's just thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing everything about the book, your experiences. Um,
My
yeah, and I,
pleasure.
I think you've shared so much. I don't even think you need to summarize the book. Usually I say, if you could summarize it well, no, why don't you go ahead? Just in
No.
a few words, how would you summarize the book? What would you say to somebody to kind of get them to really understand how important this book can be for their life and their work and their business?
Whoa. So if you have any fear about anything that you're trying to do, it's different. It's not something that you're great at. You're thinking about trying something new. You're thinking about, should I make this move? Read Who Moved My Cheese and know that it's going to work out. Just move. Like, don't, read this. That's the biggest thing. If you have any inkling of fear for the next step that you're about to take, read Who Moved My Cheese. And maybe you'll see yourself in one of the characters and understand that it's going to be fine.
And see if you can find that tribe, you know?
Yeah,
Even
it's
just reach
important. You
out.
can't do it. You can't do it by yourself. You need community, and that is a great point, John. Because I could not do this without my family, my incredible friends, you strangers, um, any of it, any of
Yeah.
it. I mean, I remember when my husband passed away. It was strangers, a whole bunch of strangers. I had one friend who uh, every day for I think 2 weeks, she would leave me something, a gift, fresh flowers, cards. She would never tell me she's coming by. I would just see stuff show up at my door. Like, how incredible. So we need the people in our community to rock for us. And the thing is that with no expectation that you're gonna get something back in return. Just do it
Mm,
because you're being a good human being to the someone who needs you at that time, because it will come to you. I promise you. It may not come directly from that person, but it will come to you in some good form from some other thing in your life. So,
absolutely. Perfectly
yeah.
said. Keisha, do you wanna share the details? I'll publish this episode before
Please.
before the summer. Do you want to share
Yeah.
the details of where people can go to sign up, the date, the times, some of the
Yeah.
speakers or topics, whatever you want to share? Go ahead.
Okay, so the 17th annual Women in Business Summit, or WIB Summit, is happening on May 20th at the Marriott Hartford downtown. You can go to wibsummit.com for all of the details to see the list of speakers. We're covering a range of topics that include leadership development, management, entrepreneurship, and personal development. And if you are the type of person who is looking to make connections or grow your skill in a particular way, then you need to join us. We have so much fun. We're benefiting the Town That Cares, which is the food pantry for the town of West Hartford. So a portion of our profits will be donated to them, and they have significant need. So I'm excited for us to be able to do that for them. And yeah, you should just join us. We're going to have fun. We're going to learn. And that's about it. That's just go to websummit.com. Follow us on Facebook. The incredible speakers that are coming. Joelle Murchison. You don't know Joelle? She's an incredible expert in
Yeah,
diversity
she
and
is. Yeah,
inclusion.
she
She is
is.
just like this woman.
Yeah, yeah.
And I could go on with a whole nother segment on just her connection to WIB Summit. She was one of the early supporters of the event, even when she was at Travelers. And so she's keynoting. And if you ever heard her spoke, you're going to leave inspired with her. Then we have Rola El Chami, which is she's coming from Oxford, England. And I'm super excited for you to get to know this incredible human being. She's a founder of Survive for Women, which is giving support to women who are survivors of domestic violence who are currently refugees. Let me just unpack that. So you're a refugee and you're going through domestic violence. You have no way to leave because the person who's holding the purse string is also the person who's giving you abuse. Like what? So her company, her organization helps these women by providing them with income because it's about having the resource to leave, right? So she makes these beautiful bracelets and gives the money to these women in need. And so she's coming. She's going to talk about social entrepreneurship and resilience. And she has a whole, her story is incredible. She works at the University of Oxford. So there's so much. So there's Rola. Then there is Sonia Alvelo, who is the CEO of Latin Financial. She's in a very different space when it comes to money. And I want you as an entrepreneur to come and talk to Sonia about how do you get financing for your business and listen to her talk about that. There's so much. Sister Aniango. And I don't know, John, if you know who Sister Aniango is, but I have been in her class before. She's a woman, I swear, she can reach into your soul and pull out
I
all the
think
goodness.
I think I met her at a networking event, and I knew enough. I could
Listen,
tell to avoid her class because I
yes.
would get my ass handed to me.
Oh my God, high energy. When it
High
talks about
energy,
manifest,
inspirational.
yes. Yes. And she asked me, she goes, Keisha, can I have music in my workshop? I'm like, yes, you can. So just incredible. Cornell Thomas is coming and he is just like so he was the first and only keynote speaker at WIB Summit, and he's going to be there. So I could go on because you can tell I hand select these folks, and I want them to talk about manifesting through their subject matter. The
It's
subject that they're
beautiful.
expert at. So I'm
Yeah,
excited. And
I'm
then
actually
DJ
gonna.
Two Boogies are providing the music, which
Yeah, I was gonna say I
keeps
saw her name
energy
on there.
like.
What do you have like just during like networking hours? She's just like in the background, like
Oh no, she's in the front ground
is she?
because like someone, Megan Rothschild, she was like, Keisha, do you still dance at WIB Summit? I'm like, Megan, don't tell all the details. We have a great time. We
Yeah,
have a
I'm
great
actually
time
gonna
while
I'm
we're
setting up
learning.
a time to sit down with Cornell pretty soon to go over a book with
Mhm.
him as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
He's written
But
a
I
ton of
mean,
them, and
but
he's great.
for me, it'll be interesting for you to see the book that he's picked to talk about. We're just trying to decide
Oh,
the
what did
date,
he?
but
Oh my
nah, I
goodness!
can't tell you. I can't
Oh,
tell you.
that's right. You can't
It's
tell me.
probably it'd probably be the last thing that you would expect because you have this kind of idea of Cornell and what he's
I
written and
do.
tune in for that. It hasn't even happened, and I can tell already it's going to be amazing.
Oh, you two together? Oh man, yes,
But for anybody who's only heard about this event
yes.
from here or from what I've shared in the past, like go check out the speakers.
Yes.
I'm not blowing smoke. These are all of the speakers, everybody that's associated with it. I'm not being paid to say this, but I love when great events are being put together with great messages. And all the people that are listed or associated with this are just heavy hitters of getting things done in our community, in our network, whether it's Connecticut or West or Mass,
Mhm.
or it doesn't matter now. Like, we're all online, so it's all one community. But check it out. As Keisha had mentioned, there's just resources of every kind that you could imagine, whether it's motivational, leadership, financial. Please check it
Mhm.
out, because I think it just does an amazing job messaging for what people I think need to hear. So Keisha, thank you so much
Thank you.
for founding that event and keeping it going all these years later.
Thank you so much. It's really my pleasure. And I really appreciate, John, you having me on. This has been so much fun. Yeah, I'm so grateful to you for asking me. I think this is going to be, I just see it continuing for years to come. This is the perfect place. And we get to have an insight to the person speaking and then the books that they share. Like I've written down, I need to check out. You said Mindset. There's a book that's called Mindset and the Leadership Challenge. So I'm already,
Mhm.
writing that things down from the guests that you've had on. And so I'm really grateful.
I love it.
Oh, I forgot to plug. Gabby's gonna be there. She's from No Plan B in New
Okay.
Jersey. I mean, Gabby's awesome. She helps startups grow. I can't even. Like John says, listen to John. Come to
It's
WIB
just
Summit.
it's just too many people to list
There's too
without
many.
because they're all heavy hitters, and you have to give like a little background on each.
Yes.
But
I
it,
want to
it
go through
is
everyone to tell you why you should, but link to their bios and read it for yourself because then you'll see why I think you should be there.
absolutely. So Keisha, thank you so much for coming on to talk about
Thank
Who
you.
Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson. And when you get to that book that you have within you and you publish your own book, please come back so we can talk about that. I'm not even going to ask you what the book is going to be about. I know it'll be great. It'd be great for you to come back here and share whatever you learned in that experience.
Thank you. I'm excited to do that. And I just want to thank, while I have the time,
Sure,
UConn
sure.
School of Business, for Ion Bank also, and CRT, Community Renewal Team. I'm forgetting somebody. Hmm, what did I say? Ion, and I don't want to forget anyone.
University of Connecticut,
Yeah, School of
Ion,
Business is yeah, Ion Bank,
CRT.
CRT. Oh, and Latin Financial. I almost forgot
Okay,
for
okay.
supporting WIB Summit because I could not, like you said, it takes a community to make it happen. And I could not do it without my sponsors. So thank you all.
Absolutely. The community has to be individual,
Mhm.
corporate. I mean, it has to take every kind
Yes,
of
and
level of.
everybody. So
All
this has
right.
been
So
amazing. Thank you, John, so much
no,
for
anytime,
having me.
anytime. And if I missed anything that I should have asked Keisha, we're limited on time and it goes by so quick. If there's anything that you can think of that I should have asked, please let me know. Maybe reach out to her. Um, but it was just a great conversation about this book and just what it means to move beyond your comfort zone. I think she's proven that in what she's done with her own business, her experience, and just the WIB Summit. So please check that out again. Keisha, thank you. Thank you everybody for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.